You meet someone for the first time. A handshake, a glance, maybe just a face on a screen, scrolling past in half a second. And before a single word is spoken, your brain has already decided something about them. Do you trust this person? Are they safe? Are they someone worth knowing? You didn't choose to make that decision. It happened before you were aware it was happening. But the real answer to how this works is far stranger than a gut feeling. In the late 2000s, psychologist Alexander Todorov ran an experiment at Princeton that changed how scientists understood first impressions. He showed people photographs of unfamiliar faces for just 1/10 of a second, 100 milliseconds. That's faster than a blink. And yet, in that sliver of time, people confidently rated each face on trustworthiness, competence, and likability. Here's the strange part. When Todorov gave other participants unlimited time to study the same faces, their ratings barely changed. More time didn't produce more accuracy. It just produced more confidence in a judgment that had already been made. Your brain isn't gathering evidence when it meets someone new. It's matching a pattern, and that pattern was written long before you were born. Think about what a face actually is biologically. It's a cluster of signals: the angle of the eyebrows, the width of the jaw, the curve of the mouth at rest. None of these features tell you anything true about a stranger's character. A person with naturally downturned eyebrows isn't more likely to be angry. A person with a rounder face isn't more likely to be kind. But your brain doesn't know that. Your brain is running code shaped by an environment that no longer exists. For most of human history, you didn't meet strangers very often. Your ancestors lived in small bands, often fewer than 150 people, where almost everyone you encountered was someone you already knew. When a genuinely unfamiliar face appeared, it mattered. It could mean a new ally. It could mean a threat. And there was no time to investigate, no background check, no mutual friends to vouch for anyone. So evolution did something efficient. It built a fast filter, a system that could glance at a face and produce an instant verdict long before language, reasoning, or memory had a chance to weigh in. That filter still runs today, every time. Neuroscientist Ralph Adolphs and his colleagues traced this response to a small almond-shaped structure deep in your brain called the amygdala. It's part of what's sometimes called the brain's alarm system. When you see a new face, the amygdala activates almost instantly, well before the more analytical parts of your brain, the ones responsible for careful judgment, even finish processing the image. In other words, your emotional reaction arrives first. Your reasoning shows up late, and mostly just to explain a decision that's already been made. Here's where it gets even stranger. The features your brain associates with trustworthiness aren't random. They're remarkably consistent across cultures, across age groups, even across species. Faces that resemble what researchers call baby-faced features, larger eyes relative to the face, a smaller nose, a rounder shape, tend to be rated as more trustworthy and less threatening. Why would that be? Because for your ancestors, a baby's face meant something specific: vulnerability, innocence, no capacity for deception. Your brain generalized that association and applied it to adult faces that happen to share those proportions, regardless of whether the person behind that face is actually trustworthy at all. This is what researchers sometimes call the stranger effect. Not a single mechanism, but the layered result of ancient pattern recognition meeting a modern world full of unfamiliar faces at a scale your ancestors never experienced. Think about how many new faces you encounter in a single day now. Strangers on a train, profile photos on an app, thumbnails on a video platform. Each one gets the same 100-millisecond verdict your brain has been running for hundreds of thousands of years. And the unsettling part is how much weight that snap judgment carries. Psychologist Nalini Ambady spent years studying what she called thin slicing, the brain's ability to draw broad conclusions from very small windows of information. In one of her most cited studies, observers watched silent video clips of teachers, just a few seconds long, with no sound and no context. Their ratings of those teachers' effectiveness closely matched evaluations made by students after an entire semester. A few seconds, predicting months of experience. Now stretch that idea into the rooms where it actually matters. Job interviews, first dates, courtroom testimony. A 2015 study following up on Todorov's original work found that mock jurors' trust ratings of a defendant's face made within seconds correlated with how likely they were to believe that person was guilty, independent of any evidence presented. Does that mean your first impressions are useless? Not exactly. They're not useless. They're just not about the person in front of you. They're about every face that came before them. Every interaction you've ever had has quietly trained your internal model of what trustworthy looks like, what dangerous looks like, what familiar looks like. When you meet someone new, your brain isn't really evaluating them. It's running a comparison against a vast, mostly invisible database built from a lifetime of faces, and it's reporting back a confidence score disguised as a feeling. This is why two people can meet the exact same stranger and walk away with completely different impressions. They're not seeing different people. They're running the comparison against different databases. So what do you do with this? You can't switch the system off. The 100-millisecond judgment will keep firing every time for the rest of your life. That's not a flaw to fix. It's the architecture itself. But you can do something your ancestors never could. You can notice it happening. The next time you meet someone and feel an instant pull toward warmth or an instant flicker of unease, you can pause before that feeling becomes a decision. You can ask where it came from. Is this about who's standing in front of you or about someone they happen to resemble? A teacher from years ago, a face from a story you were told as a child, a pattern your brain absorbed before you had any say in the matter. That pause is new. Evolutionarily speaking, it's almost nothing. A flicker of conscious oversight layered on top of a system built for a world of 150 familiar faces. And yet, that flicker might be the only thing standing between you and a verdict that was never really about the person you just met. You meet someone for the first time, a handshake, a glance, and in the space of a heartbeat, your brain delivers its verdict. Confident, instant, and almost certainly not about them at all.